You're listening to First Fossil. Because sometimes you simply need someone to help you take that first fossil. Hello and welcome to First Fossil, a show where we learn together how to take that first fossil toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candace Olusola, and in today's episode, we're discussing the novel coronavirus from the perspective of pre-K through 12th grade educators. And I think there has been some misconception about how educators have been processing what's going on at this time, how they're affected, what's actually happening in this transition phase, what they think about all of this, and so much more in relation to the coronavirus. And obviously, we were all thrown into this situation at the same time, but in different ways, depending on where we teach and where we're located, what our state's regulations are, and where we are in different cities. So I'm kind of curious to hear what people have to say today about it. And I have 7 educators. Well, there's 7 of us total. I'm one of them. But we're representing different schools and programs across the U.S. And we're all going to introduce ourselves in just a bit. But first, I want to welcome all of you guys to the podcast. Thank you so much for being willing to share your experience with my listeners. And hopefully we get to share information and how to help each other in this process, or things that we've already done, things that have worked, didn't work, situations that are going on, that hopefully other teachers that are listening to this can maybe learn from us as well, maybe get some ideas, and maybe even students can hear what their teachers are going through and have a little bit more compassion about the situation. So why don't we go ahead and state our names, the institution, the school that we teach at, where that school is located, and what it is that we teach. Rebecca, why don't we start with you?
Okay, hi, I'm Rebecca. I teach 6th grade social studies at Midway Middle School, which is in Midway, Georgia, in Liberty County School System.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Gable-Ruiz. I work at a private preschool, a private Montessori preschool in Seattle, Washington, and I am a Spanish immersion teacher's assistant.
Hi, I'm Debbie. I currently live and teach in Cana, Ecuador, which is in the Amazon region of Ecuador. And I teach high school English at a Spanish Christian school.
I'm Jenny. I teach kindergarten at Ashton Elementary School in Sarasota, Florida.
Hi, I'm Katie Hancock, and I teach 3rd grade at Welcome Elementary in Greenville, South Carolina, in the Greenville County Schools District.
Hi, I'm Kathy Liu, and I teach high school science at Walnut Hill, which is an independent boarding art school outside of Boston.
And I'm Candace Olusola, and I teach pre-K through 5th grade Spanish at St. Mark Elementary School here in Richmond, Kentucky. I want to kind of just get an idea for how it was transitioning from being in the classroom to now teaching at home, or even transitioning back if your schools have opened. But I know it was definitely a whirlwind. I think everyone kind of had that sense of we're here and then all of a sudden we're not. I want to know what was going on. What time in the semester was it for you guys? Were you guys wrapping up the semester? Were you guys starting after spring break? What was going on for some of you guys? How about Jenny? Why don't you start?
Sure. We actually had just completed the 3rd quarter and had left on spring break. So the teachers had like a planning day, and when we left on that planning day, thought everything was normal, left for spring break, and found out that first day of spring break officially that we were not going to be coming back right away. Didn't know how long it would last, so they extended spring break by a week, and we were able to send some like online links to parents for that extra week. And then we had that week as teachers to sort of prepare, and then started officially a week after that. So we actually were kind of given a week of grace, which was really nice to have to prepare, because I know that, like, for teachers I know in other states, it was like dive right in, and we had that sort of week of buffer, which was fantastic, because as a kindergarten teacher, we were told we were going to be giving a lot of less online and more paper stuff, so we had a week to sort of gather some resources and figure that plan out. But yeah, so it was the exact end of the third quarter for us. So we're working completely in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
For us.
How about you, Kathy? What was going on at Walnut Hill?
Right before we left for spring break, we were told to so this is the first week of March, to think about what it would be like if we had to come back and, instead of starting back in the classroom, prepare a 2-week unit for online learning. And by the end of the first week of spring break, they had invited a lot of international students to stay on campus if it was unsafe to go home. And basically, by the end of the first week, we were told that spring break was going to be extended a week, just like at Jenny's school, so that teachers could prepare, and then we come back with at least 2 weeks of online instruction. And then that following Monday, pretty much campus shut down. So I always pictured in my head, as a science teacher, I'd be able to at least go into my classroom and gather supplies and videotape labs that I'm doing, so the kids could at least make the observations needed. And then I was told that I wasn't even allowed to get on campus to get anything. It was kind of a quick shutdown. I sent Melissa Castle, the Dean of Students, an email. She got me some graduated cylinders and some balances so that I could take some data at home. And we've just been working off for videos and photos I steal off the internet, basically.
Wait, sorry. So Miss Castle got you supplies to do science at home because you couldn't go to the building? Was it just because were they just afraid that all of the teachers might want to go to the building to get stuff, or?
Basically, they said if you lived on campus, you could still have free access to things on campus, like the fitness center, practice. The kids who stayed on campus can go into the practice rooms and the art studios.
Right.
And to try to limit contact with people off campus, we were told basically on Monday that our cards were all deactivated. Even if we tried to go on campus, we couldn't get in anywhere.
Oh, okay, man.
So it happened really fast. I really would have liked 24 hours notice.
Right? I would have started just collecting all of my flask in a bag or something. Like, man. Okay, wow, that's a whirlwind. Man, Katie, what was going on for your school?
Hey, okay, so Greenville County School District, our spring break was not until April. So we were wrapping up the third 9 weeks when this happened. So we were trying to finish in those last assessments, getting those, final grades put in and things like that. So we left on Friday, business as normal. Thank goodness I kind of have that tradition of making sure I give all my students a hug when I leave on Friday. And, people were talking about other districts shutting down, other states shutting down, but Greenville seemed to, South Carolina, we hadn't heard anything, nothing was official. And it wasn't until Sunday afternoon, it was the official announcement that school was going to be closed, virtual, until March 31st. And so at that point, the district gave the teachers 2 days to come in and do planning at that point to make sure they had supplies and plans kind of prepared, which I'm such a germaphobe. I kind of felt really weird. Like, if we're not supposed to be at school, why are we all together? But I was also selfishly really excited that I was able to go in and get some plans. We're a 1-to-1 Chromebook school, but we did not have the insurance or anything like that at the time to send Chromebooks home. So because it was only going to be closed at that point until March 31st, we decided to go with a paper pencil route for all students. So the 3 copier machines at our school was definitely kind of the toilet paper and Clorox wipes of the world, kind of, for all the teachers trying to do 10 days worth of packets for students. And it's kind of been interesting as things have progressed and we are now officially virtual till the end of the year. We've had to do different things like having a day where students go get their Chromebooks and different things like that. I teach at a Title I school, so we've definitely had to figure out ways to make sure, you know, they were able, if there was no internet access, we had a plan B. So different things like that. So, and then I also just finished up grades based on what I had the first week that we were virtual teaching. So that was definitely an experience, not having every single thing that was required from the district, but it was, you know, you can't make up major and minor grades. So it was kind of a crazy situation in terms of that.
Yeah, wow. Oh man, the toilet paper of the education system. Copy machines.
It was 3 for every single teacher in the building. It was very creepy.
That's bananas.
But we all survived, and everyone is still friends.
It's like we still love each other. You know,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
Fine. It's fine. Oh my god. Okay, so then Debbie, you're in Ecuador. So, and you're in like the Amazon. So what was the transition like in the jungle of Ecuador?
No, for us it was total chaos. Everything was fine. And then one day, I think it was the 12th of March, I want to say it was a Thursday. We were in school, and then at noon, we got a message saying, oh, by the way, just, you know, we're not going to be going back to school for the next few days. So just send your kids out with whatever they need. And so they left. And then we never went back. And then overnight, they made us basically create an entire online platform for all of our students. But also, we are a school that is, we serve like super low income. Like, they don't know how to use computers. They don't own technology. So we had to also cater to all the students who were receiving paperwork. And we were not being told anything. Like, it was just, we're taking it day by day. So literally Thursday night, we created an entire Google Classroom online system for high school and taught the kids all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sending WhatsApp messages, videos, explaining how to on a computer, how to click things, how to type things. And then, on Monday, we were no longer allowed to travel to the town that my school's in. And none of us have cars and stuff. So that became a thing. And then basically, we took it day by day, moved into the online platform. And I think 2 weeks in, it was okay, another 2 weeks. And so then, we're telling all the students that 2 weeks in, okay, it's going to be another 2 weeks. And then I think 2 weeks ago, they just shut down school for the whole year. And so we'll never be going back to school or seeing our students. And we're still doing both platforms. We do a full online system. And we also do packages of work for students who have no internet in their houses, which is, 50-50. But I'm at home, and I haven't been back to school, and I won't get to, because there's no way to get into our school. There's no way to get to the town. On top of that, our curfew is really different than from what it sounds like in the States. We have a 2 p.m. curfew, and the police drive around. They fine you if you're outside your house, and we're allowed once a day to go grocery shopping, depending on your ID. And those days are like a full day because, we don't have cars and all of that. And so we have to, make it work. So yeah, that was us. For us, it just happened literally within a minute. Like, we got a text Because at this point we had ended pretty early, and the rest of the world was basically fully functioning at that point. And so for us, it was just 1 minute we were in school, and next minute we were like, okay, take your manuals for the weekend. We'll see how this goes. And that was it.
Wait, so you were having to send information through WhatsApp to students?
Basically, everything we do is all hands on board. Like, we are sending, I think I'm part of like 36 WhatsApp groups, just for my students. Like, every representative, we had to create an entire online curriculum in one night. They basically said, hey, you guys are not going to be coming back next week. It could be a couple days, it could be a couple months. So you figure out what your students need. So all the high school teachers came around, and we were like, okay, well, we want to continue teaching because we need to. So we're going to go the Google Classroom route. So that whole night, like, I don't even know, countless hours, we basically created an online curriculum, put the online curriculum in, and then went into full training for our students. And then we continue to do that. So, I mean, yeah, we're sending stuff to Google Classroom, but then we had to create like a full like line of communication, because our kids don't have computers, they don't have internet, they don't have phones. So we are sending out messages through WhatsApp, basically anything to get information across to the students, which is everything. It just kind of depends.
Right, and if I remember from living there, I don't know if this was across Ecuador. I feel like it is, but the calendar year and the academic year are pretty much the same. Like, it's more of a like January, February to the end of like to like December, November, December, or to January of the next year, and then they have like what would be like a summer break. Are you guys on that schedule, or are you guys the beginning of your school year is in August or September?
We actually go year round.
Year round.
So, the missionaries get to go home, for a couple weeks every summer, but in summer it's basically recuperation month. Obviously, everything had to change because of the pandemic. But we were going into our first day of exams the next day when the pandemic hit. And so we had to basically overnight reshuffle our entire calendar. They put all of that on the teachers and just said, figure it out. And so we decided to give it a couple weeks and see what happened, and go right into the next partial. We call it partial here, whatever. And then we said we'll see how it goes, and then we will have to figure out basically literally day to day, like depending on how they start back up, if they do. So when we found out we weren't going to be starting back up, we decided to do exams for both of missing ones and we had to also recreate an entirely new grading system, entirely new everything, like a whole calendar year. So we moved around everything. Yeah.
Okay. So when you said that you guys aren't coming back for the rest of the school year, you're pretty much like not going back until 2021 then.
We will go back when the country opens up again.
Oh, okay.
This is how it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the next school year officially begins in August, September. So. Oh. Yeah.
Okay. I
hopefully by then.
Yeah. Okay. Priscilla.
I have family from Ecuador who was on vacation to Florida at the time, and the country closed down so fast that they got stuck there. They're still living with my parents.
No,
are they in Manta?
Yeah, Ecuador. Sorry, go ahead.
People don't realize when we said that the country shut down, it just shut overnight, and we were no longer allowed to travel. So one day I went to school, and the next day I couldn't get to my school. It's a different town, and I haven't been able to access that town ever since. And we can't even travel within like town to town, city to city. It's like done. We're closed down.
Man. Wow. Okay, that's a lot to take in. Rebecca, what was going on for you guys?
So our school, we, like Katie's, didn't have spring break till April, but we were having a small break where the kids were out on that Friday, and then we were all out that Monday, Tuesday, the 16th and the 17th of March. Well, our governor shut down on Monday night, saying that we couldn't go back to school the 18th through the 31st. So our school district decided that we needed to open on the 17th instead of a holiday, so we can kind of get everybody's, because we're one-to-one iPads. We're a completely Apple school. And so when we did the switch, they wanted us to do that. Well, then we actually found out that one of our students was being tested for COVID-19. It was negative, but when he was tested, they were like, okay, never mind. So we went from show up tomorrow to at 6 a.m. that morning, never mind, don't show up. And so now we're doing Google Classroom, our pretty much our whole district, and we're actually doing each day is a different subject. So on Monday, the kids do math. On Tuesday, the kids do language arts. Wednesday, science. Thursday, social studies. Friday is their electives. So for my kids, just if they're in band, whatever, that's on Friday. So what we have to do is we Google Hangouts with our kids on that day of the week. So I'll meet with my first period from like 9 a.m. to 9:30, and then my second period 10 to 10:30, and we'll just have a little mini lesson, because I'm lucky enough it's history. I can do history pretty much, talking to them, and we do a lot of discussion anyway. And our school district has Wi-Fi vans that they've actually put around the town.
Wi-Fi vans?
Yes, they're vans with Wi-Fi, like hotspots.
That is awesome.
We are in a very hurricane prone town. I'm right near Savannah, Georgia. And so they have these for when we're out for hurricanes, which we were out last semester for. So we're just doing, that was all quarter 4. Quarter 3 was done before this all happened. So our grades are not to hurt our kids, but to help them. And so that's how we do grades. And then we meet on Thursdays for social studies, and we just have our discussions about whatever it is. We're doing a lot of economics, because that just fits right in with my subject that I teach. And that's what's going with us.
Wow. Man, that's a really cool idea, though, to have Wi-Fi hotspot vans. Like, that's amazing. I love that. That's a great initiative that they would take. Priscilla, what are they doing for your preschool, or what did they do for your preschool?
Just to answer the previous question, and then I'll get to that. So for our school, we're in Seattle, so we were aware of the coronavirus from the first case confirmed was in Olympia, which is about 40 minutes south of where I am. And then the first death was February 29th. So January 21st, then a month later, we have our first death in Kirkland, which is north of Seattle, or kind of. And then 2 days later, and it was moving so fast, the administration was constantly emailing parents. We, after the first death was confirmed, we shut down morning care, we shut down aftercare, and then I called out on the 2nd because I got a cold, and it was just a cold, and I knew it was just a cold. I was sniffling, I didn't have a fever or anything, but a lot of the parents were really concerned from my classroom, had been talking to us about how worried and stressed they were about the situation. So I called my director and I was like, hey, I have a cough, I have a cold, I can come in if you want me to, but personally, with the amount of anxiety that a lot of the parents, especially in my classroom, are having, I feel like it'd make them more comfortable if I stayed home. So I did, and then I never went back. They shut down the school on the 3rd or the 4th of March, and then what they did was they asked teachers to come in for 3 hours to record lessons in the classroom I didn't feel comfortable doing that because I have to commute an hour on public transport to get to the school downtown. And at that time, Seattle proper hadn't shut down. The governor hadn't issued any stay-at-home orders. So it was just business as usual as far as the city was concerned. So they did that for about 3 weeks, and then the teachers are off because the assumption was that by the end of March, we'd be back. That didn't happen, so then we moved to Zoom meetings. So this is 2.5 to 5-year-olds, and as you can imagine, Zoom meetings were pretty chaotic. There's definitely a concern with our 4 and 5-year-old pre-K students who are moving on to kindergarten next year about keeping them on track to be able to start kindergarten, and so that was a concern of my lead and of myself when we started Zoom meetings. But we would send a daily packet home for email for parents to print out, and then we do 2 half-hour Zoom meetings, 9:30 to 10, and then 2:30 to 3. And the 2:30 to 3 meeting was with pre-K, because the younger students are usually napping around that time. So there was less kids on that one, and it was a little more easily lent itself to a little more structure because those kids are a little bit older, they understand a little bit better. But yeah, that's kind of the start of the whole thing and what we've been doing throughout. But my school actually just opened up on May 4th, so about 2 months almost exactly after we closed. And that is because my school is strictly a preschool. And according to the stay-at-home orders for Washington State, preschools and daycares have been set to be essential services. So the school decided to open up again based on that. So it wasn't necessary for us to stay shut down. So that's kind of what's been going on for me.
Wow. Man, wow. Okay. I hadn't thought about a lot of the things that you guys brought up. I'm an adjunct. I guess it would be adjunct. I'm a part-time teacher, and I teach Spanish on Mondays and Tuesdays normally for an elementary school. And I think it was the second week of March for us, but I had gone in on Monday, and towards the end of teaching that day, I saw the principal in the office, and she seemed kind of frantic for 2 different reasons. One, because they were talking about COVID, and they heard that there was a case in Richmond, Kentucky, and so she was trying to think of, do I make the call to close the school? Do I wait for the school district to close the school? Because she had just gotten word that an elementary school down the street had decided to close outside of the direction of the district. So she didn't know if she was supposed to do the same thing. She didn't feel comfortable making that call. She's like, I'm not a medical professional. I don't know what would be the right thing to do. So I'm just going to wait for the district to tell us to close or not. And then they went on a lockdown because then something else in town happened. And so she was like, you need to run out of the school. And I was like, okay. So I left the school that day, and I texted her the next day and was like, can I come back? And she was like, yeah, you can come back. Everything's fine. So then I came back to teach on Tuesday, and it was just a regular day for me. And then I think either Wednesday or Thursday, she had told us that the schools were shut down and they weren't sure for how long. And then we heard from our governor that the schools are pretty much just going to be closed through the time that I was going to have them. So I didn't really get to say goodbye to my students. All of my Spanish materials are at the school. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm supposed to get my stuff back. And I think the hardest thing for me was just realizing that I am a part-time teacher, so I already don't get to see them every day on a regular week. And then I don't know if I'll really ever get to see them again unless I just decide to pop in one day and say hey. But yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind, and I'm also a student online, so it was just weird being home all the time and then not getting to go see my kids throughout the week. It was just an odd season, and I had to come up with Spanish materials for them online, so I kind of just made them YouTube playlists, especially for I have pre-K, so I have 2 and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and so I was just finding all the fun Spanish songs that their parents can kind of like press play and they can kind of maybe take a break while the kids enjoy the videos kind of situation. And then for the older kids, I just found more of the more instructional videos with some fun like kid shows and music videos that they could watch in Spanish. But yeah, that was kind of I don't think my experience was as drastic because I'm a part-time teacher, but having to figure out what we're supposed to do and how it's affecting our students and how we're supposed to help them adjust, and all those conversations were just different to have to think about in general. I don't know how you guys have processed this experience since then, because I think, Katie, we might have talked about this before, but like one of the first things that I thought about was, oh no, are my kids safe? Like I was just nervous for their safety, because I know not all students come from a safe environment, and to have to be sheltered at home in an unsafe situation made me nervous. So I kept thinking about this over and over and over and over. I'm also a mentor at a middle school in town, and I mentor some of the students that the teachers decided were in probably the most difficult home situations. And so I thought of those girls and was like, I don't know if they're gonna be able to do their homework, and I hope the teachers find grace in that, because we all know how difficult their home lives are in general. So I can't imagine what it would be like during this time either. But did any of you guys have, like, yeah, Priscilla, what were you having to process through?
A lot of what you've been saying is kind of, so when King County school systems decided to shut down, King County did so as a county. So the mayor of King County decided to shut down Seattle and the King County school system. So at the time, the governor hadn't shut any of the other school districts down, and a lot of the other districts were having all these conversations. Well, what about food security? What about kids who don't have internet access? How do we, do X, Y, Z? Some school districts really did get criticized for failing to shut down in what some people viewed as a timely manner. But at the same time, what some people don't understand is that public schools, and I'm lucky that I work in a way that I work at a public school. So none of my concern for my kids was about whether they were going to get enough, a private school, sorry, about whether they were going to get enough food at home, about whether they were going to be safe, about whether they were going to have internet access. It's a private school, and as much as, we don't want to assume that we know about people's financial situation, on average, everyone is doing pretty well there. But a lot of the other school districts had to decide, well, do we shut down on our own? If we shut down on our own, then we don't get certain emergency government funding. If we decide to shut down before the governor gives the order. So that was a concern. And so a lot of people who were criticizing at the time, I've had a lot of conversations about that. How do we make sure that kids are getting equitable learning experiences when not everyone has Wi-Fi, when not everyone has, there's just one laptop in the house or just one computer, and there's 3 kids or 4 kids. Like, how are they all going to be able to do their homework on time, even if they do have Wi-Fi? So that's something that we as a state, had a lot of conversations about at the time. And, there was a lot of scrambling, but there's programs about, there's been some programs implemented so kids can still get their free breakfast and their reduced lunch and all of that stuff. So that's good. But we have seen an increase in domestic violence. We've seen an increase in child abuse. We've seen an increase in all of those negative things that come from being stuck with abusive people in a home situation without any of those escape valves. So we're just going to have to see what the statistics say in the long run. But that was definitely my first thought was, what about the women stuck in abusive homes and abusive situations whose only outlet to get out is, to go to work? Now they don't have work. Now they're stuck 24/7 in a stressful situation when everyone's amped up. So that was kind of what I was thinking about at the time that this all went down. And yeah, it's been hard to deal with. It's kind of surreal because we're living through history. I've been trying to keep a journal just about how I'm feeling every day and kind of what's going on, because this is a historic event. Like when I listen to podcasts about like World War I and stuff, and they'll be quoting journals of soldiers on the front line or letters sent from people back home, and a lot of the stuff, and it's interesting now that we have the internet. Sorry to get a little off topic, but yeah, this stuff is kind of going to go down in posterity, and that's been a bit surreal for me to wrap my mind around.
Yeah, Debbie, you wanted to say something on that?
Yeah, our school, they have been put through so much chaos, and the kids, there's 75% of students with learning disabilities, and like diagnosed learning disabilities. And, so academically, these are students who, even if they do have a computer in their home, do not know how to use it. I walk through my girls who are 15 years old in 10th grade who don't know. I'm teaching them how to turn on a computer, how to type, and I teach English. So imagine all the chaos in that, the frustration. On an emotional level, when all this stuff happened, everyone just kind of went to each other's homes. It's Ecuador, people sort of coexist, especially, it's a lower income area. They all just live together in these huge families, small spaces, where academic growth is being really pushed right now. So that has been, the students were communicating, their only safe place was in school. Most of them are single parent households, if not all of them. Maybe a handful are not. Most of them just have representatives, actually. They don't even have a parent. And so, and now they have all these random strangers in their homes. They're being told to do something way beyond their capability. And not just that, but they have to do it well enough to pass. So that's just a whole different level. And in Ecuadorian culture, it's not really okay to settle for anything less than that. So they are going to really push their kids, especially the kids of my age level. And I would say, I think, the same 75% of parents all lost their jobs overnight. We don't have government security. We don't have any sort of thing like that. So they're living paycheck to paycheck. They lost all their money, and they have no money. And so we don't have, for most students, they're pretty honest, the only meal they would eat a day was the one they would get at school, the lunch they would get at school. And so when they're no longer coming to school, they no longer have food. And their parents no longer have the resources to give them food. There's no option for filing for unemployment here. It's what it is now. So you're pouring, kind of salt on wounds over here. Because there really is no option for, especially this part of the country. So that's been really hard to know on every level there's sort of no options for the students, and yet we have to keep pushing them to grow academically, you know. So that's been very eye-opening, and it certainly changes the motivation for showing up for the students, because you do care about the academic growth. But to be honest, this setback, most of these students won't be able to recover from it, especially my older ones. But they will probably have to just continue working. Most of them are first and only generation students in the school. We go into communities and we convince them that education is good and why education is important, and then we give them 100% scholarship, so they're not paying for school. And so with this setback, it's going to really push them. And the only reason to study, the first isn't even focus on academics, is because we're in a safe space. But if that space is removed, mind is not on academic growth. You know, they're in survival right now. So that's been a little bit hard to know how to be there for them.
Wow. That's, man, and there's so much that you just said that I think is difficult for a lot of people in the States to wrap their heads around. I mean, there's an aspect of that we can talk about and relate to as teachers who have students who just don't have all the resources that other students have, but the magnitude of that is not often seen here, and I think we take that for granted. So, you know, I can't imagine trying to help your like 9th and 10th and 11th graders even know how to turn on this electronic box in their house in order to access what they need, and them successfully making it through their homework and somehow sending it back to you. Like that's a whole curriculum on its own, the how to turn on and turn off your computer. and we don't think about that.
The hard thing is in this culture, parents are really invested in their kids, or representatives, I should say, are really invested in their kids, and so that's been really hard. These students come from families and environments that don't have the highest self-esteem, and now we're trying to tell them, you need to help your student, your child, the person you're taking care of, to do something that they have zero idea. It's like all over their head, you know, especially, and with English, you know, we have totally removed, I mean, the whole motivation for these 10th graders was, let's get you guys to college. Let's get you guys to college in Tana, in the big city next to you, which is where I live. And now, like, that conversation is totally removed, because, you know, we have to be realistic that most of these kids, they want to prioritize education, but they can't right now, you know, like they will probably have to still work at their parents' store, or they will still have to go and get their parents' money in some capacity. And so, but still kind of keeping them amped up, right? Like, just wake up every day and do your work, because like you can see it someday, and maybe not now, and you will see it someday. So that's been tough.
That's heartbreaking to hear, but it is reality for a lot of people. Rebecca, did you wanted to make a comment on that?
Yes, I was just going to go right on. My school is, we're Title I, but we're also a military-based school. Most of my kids are military kids. Oh. So we get a lot of funding from the government. So fortunately, as far as the lunch goes, our kids are still getting their lunches. They're still driving out buses to neighborhoods and getting the kids their food. But I've had kids who've contacted me, and they're like, well, Miss, I look forward to our meetings because that's the only time I get to step away from my kids, my siblings. That's the only time I'm not having to babysit, is when I'm telling them I'm in your meeting. I've had kids who contact me on Google Classroom. I'm sorry, I can't do your work today. I have to watch my little brother. Can I do it tomorrow? Yes, you can. but you don't think about that, until they're stuck at home and they've got younger siblings to watch, and some of them won't be here next year. Some of them, they're military kids. Right. They're not going to be here for maybe 2 years, and they're going overseas, and that was their last chance to meet some friends.
Yeah.
And it just got shut down.
Yeah. Katie, what were you going to say on that?
So much of that is so hitting home for me, because just like we talked about, that was absolutely my first thought, is safety, and then also concern of keeping, obviously I want their minds fed, but like you can't feed their minds until you feed their stomachs, kind of thing. In my school, we do free breakfast and free lunch, and so every morning my students have breakfast with me in the classroom, and we have lunch. And I am so grateful that we have the bus routes still going through their bus routes for the delivery spots, which is amazing. And our cafeteria workers are actually doing, it's kind of like a drive-through type thing at school, where they're doing like the bag lunches, and you can get breakfast and lunch all together. That's kind of in walking distance for them, and all they need is an adult with the ID or the student, obviously, to be identified in order to get that. But also, for me, one of the biggest things for me is I do a Google meeting with my students every morning. Obviously, not all of them attend, but that's been a really great way to check in on the faces every single day. And I'm obviously very much looking as much as I can, just to make sure, how is everything going? How is everything? And what breaks my heart the most is, obviously the ones I worry about are the ones that I'm not able to make contact with. And I have about 5 of those. And luckily I have a principal who is just so on it and so amazing. And we kind of have an ongoing list of those students who we've not made contact with. And we live in an area where we have a full-time social worker at our school, and you can tell just that they're doing an amazing job making sure that we're keeping these kids safe, because just like Rebecca was saying, even my kids, 3rd grade, they're not a babysitter of their younger siblings. And then also I'm really running into, I have a lot of parents who are wanting to have those high expectations, but they were not ready or set up, emotionally or whatever, to be the teacher now, or to be that support from home. And I've had a lot of interesting takes and kind of ways that frustration has been shown. And it's kind of a frustrating thing when, obviously school has changed, curriculum has changed so much. Some did not, even graduate high school and are not aware of some of the things that are going on. And that's a hard thing to have to tell your child, or have to kind of go through, I'm trying to do what's best for my child and help them be successful, but I don't know how to help you. And that's such a helpless feeling. So I think one of my biggest things for my parents is I kind of feel like my biggest role for them now is to be what they were for me, that supporter, that I'm here for you. I will get on Google Classroom anytime to be that person, because I'm trying to make it a big push that this is not your job. That's what I'm here for, to help and to take that burden off of you, because you are already experiencing too much. So I'm hoping, we had Teacher Appreciation Week last week, and there was a day that we did appreciation for all parents, because they are now the teachers during this time, and it's not something that they were prepared for or ready for, and ready or not, here it comes.
Yeah, that's so nice that you guys did that for the parents, because I know a bunch of parents who are overwhelmed, especially if they have multiple kids in multiple grades, and they don't understand how their homework goes, and trying to still take care of the house, but and then if they're essential, it's kind of like the oldest watches everyone else, and it's a lot. I think it's a lot more chaotic than people can fathom unless they're really in that situation. And so even just letting them know, like, we're not in your house, but we know your house is not what it was before, and that's very stressful, and we're here to support you through that, you know?
I've heard the saying a lot recently, give them grace, not grades during this time. And for me, that's kind of what I'm after is, you know, I'm here to support and to, you know, help them do what they feel comfortable or able to do. But I'm not, you know, going to be, you know, kind of thing. Like, we all need grace during this time, not grades.
Yeah. And Kathy, at Walnut Hill, I was, having been a student there and knowing that we come from all over the world, different walks of life, we're creative in a variety of different ways, and like you had said, not everyone could even go home. And so how has that been, having to prepare materials and stuff for, you know, students who, if for those that got to somehow get home without issues, you know, everyone's in a different time zone now. Everyone is, you know, like, how are students getting their music lessons if they're in Asia, but their lesson is in Eastern time, and so it's like a 15 hour difference between their lesson, and like I can't imagine what's going on, or if there's even students still on campus that are like, do they do their homework in class? Are they allowed to see teachers who are on campus to ask? Like, I mean, I can't picture what it's like there on a boarding school campus, trying to figure that out.
Last I heard, there's still 17 students on campus.
Okay.
It's dwindling. Like, I have an advisee who on May 4th got one of the Chinese government evacuation flights back to China. And then he has to quarantine in a hotel, like in a different part of the country from where he's actually from. So we have students, you know, quarantined for 14 days at various hotels, don't know what the internet's going to be like. So I think between 7 and 10 a.m. and 7 and 10 p.m. is like that sweet spot, you know. But, you know, the very first day we came back, we had an all-school assembly at 9 a.m. I have an advisee who lives in California. She was a little missed and having to get up for school at 6 a.m. For assembly, you know, which she didn't think was as worth it as like an art class or something. So yeah, it is a struggle. And like I'm lucky. I have 2 classes, but it's the same prep this semester. So I'm able to offer my lessons at both 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. Those are kind of the academic class times I was given. So I'll offer the same thing, the same class basically. And I'm like, if you're a morning person on the East Coast, show up at 8 a.m. class. If you're not, show up at 11 a.m. You know, if you're a night owl in China, show up at 11 p.m. your time. But if you're not, show up at 8 p.m. And I've been getting pretty good attendance. So, you know, it's not required, obviously. And again, some kids can't participate fully because of spotty Wi-Fi around the world. And I think the bar for, because we went to Pax-Fail also. And so the bar for me is kind of like, I want to hear from you twice a week. You can show up to class, you can do the homework, send me an email that's in this class. I get that sometimes, like, you know, especially early on, because like I messed up the time zone and, you know, showed up at the wrong time to class, basically. But yeah, and I worry a lot about the mental health of the kids still on campus, because it's tough, because they are literally halfway around the world from their families. Their families are worried about them, but some of them can't get home right now just because I heard, at least, so I don't know how much the government flights cost, but a commercial flight costs up to $7,000 one way to go home to China right now. So some families can't afford that. And some families are willing to pay it to get their kids home, but then flights get canceled all the time. So then they get their hopes up, and then they kind of, get deflated. And as the numbers dwindle on campus, I think it's going to get harder and harder for those left behind. But I think there are some kids and families who decided they're just going to stay through. And I think they're going to stay in Massachusetts for the summer also, just so that they can be assured to be able to come back for college or school.
Right. Because some would, even if they were to go home, some would have a very hard time coming back. Yeah,
we don't know if they're going to have any visas. The newly admitted students probably won't be able to make it because they won't be able to have visas. And as an art school, as as a former music student, right, the performance part is a huge part of the experience. So how do you offer that when kids are spread around the globe?
That has been on my mind so much. Because, the music department at Walnut Hill, we had private lessons. We have orchestra to go to on the weekends in Boston. We have master classes with Ben Zander and other people. And we had juries to play and ensembles that are all part of our grade. Collectively, we have choir, even required choir, and the voice department has operas that they put on, and the composers, they have to write their own pieces and perform those. We all have our senior recitals, our junior recitals, and so I'm thinking there are so many moving parts in each department. That's just the music department. The moving parts in how to make this work, depending on where you are and your internet or your ability to even have your instrument at home. If you have an instrument, were you allowed to get your instrument? Did you get a chance to get your instrument?
Did you bring it home with you?
Did you bring it home with you, right? Or did you just have to go home and now you don't have an instrument at home? I'm thinking of the students who, especially seniors who are trying to go, they're moving on to conservatory, or they got into a certain program, or they were in the process of the last phases of figuring out which program they're going to be going to and what that's supposed to look like. I mean, I've just been trying to process how art students are being able to do what they're supposed to do to go to the next level in their majors. So that, that's chaotic. And for the academic side at Walnut Hill, even that, we still have to do well in our academic classes too. So then how the teachers are adjusting to that, whether they're on campus or not, it just seems overwhelming in a boarding school sense to me. I couldn't imagine having to figure that out. Rebecca, did you want to comment on something?
I was just going to comment. My brother goes to a college with a lot of overseas kids, and when he came home for spring break, he went back to Texas. He actually brought 2 kids from Uruguay and 1 from Portugal to Texas with them because they couldn't get home.
Right.
And they have fortunately gotten home since, but just the craziness of they wouldn't let them stay in the dorms, and they couldn't get home.
Right. So
it's like places to live because it was very sudden. They had spring break and that was it.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful for the people that decided to take foreign students in, knowing that you're going to have to figure out how to go home within a week of time. There's the financial piece to that. There's a logistics to that. We're not really allowed to travel situation here. So the people that have opened their homes to students who really honestly could not get home, thank you to all of those people, because
my brother literally called my mom and went, he's on the soccer team where he's at. He was like, I have 3 boys on the soccer team who can't make it home. And mom goes, bring them to Texas.
Yeah.
So all 3 of them hopped in the car and came to Texas.
Just adopting children everywhere. Just
my mom had 4 children for a couple of weeks, and she was just like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. Man, Debbie, what were you going to say?
Yeah, actually, the second week of all this going on, I was an international student at Calvin when I went to school in Michigan. And we all got a message, because I'm still part of that community, saying, oh yeah, all the seniors had to go back because their visas were finished because they no longer were doing in-person school. So they just sent back like hundreds of international students. And for me, that was just super eye-opening because being an international student myself, I could not imagine having to trajectory like I did, but to leave. And especially senior year, you know, because it's one thing to be able to like pursue everything with the limitations, but then to leave and not be able to come back because you know it's a separate visa that you come back on was, I don't know, it was just super sad for me to think about all those students just leaving like overnight. They decided out their visas and sent them back, which is really sad.
Yeah, man. So then, you know, you guys have shared some really, you know, just a vast array of perspectives and situations that I think are going to be very eye-opening to people. If you were to talk to students in this age range, or their parents or fellow teachers that teach for these grades, what would you say to them, and what advice would you want to give them to get through the rest of this? Because we're not completely out of the woods yet, but we're still processing and figuring it out together. But what would you guys say about that? Katie, why don't you start?
My biggest thing is just remembering that all of us are going through a worldwide pandemic right now, and that includes teachers. And I think all of us care mostly about your well-being and your safety. And we are all taking it one day at a time, and we all just need to be there and lean on each other. And the most important thing to us, like it is always when you walk into our classroom, when you're not into our classroom, we're thinking about you. You're always on our brain, and we just want you to be as safe and as healthy and as happy as possible.
Yeah. How about you, Jenny?
I would say for teachers, I found such comfort from other teachers, like not just the teammates I work with who are completely amazing, but teachers that I've worked with in the past or found in the communities, like the way we've been able to share resources and support each other has just been so wonderful. And I think that more than ever, finding those comrades in arms and reaching out to each other in those moments when you're like, I can't do this anymore, like that, my computer isn't working or whatever it is, and really just supporting each other has been so wonderful. And of course, you know, we always want to be there for our students, but grace over grades isn't just for them, it's for us too. And you know, it's okay to take that moment and say, it's 8:00 at night and I can't answer this email right now, and I need to take that moment for myself, and remembering that that's okay. Because there was a moment in like week 3 when I was like trying to explain to a parent how to log into the parent portal, and my husband was like, can we start the movie? I was just like, just a minute. And I was like crying, and he was like, what's happening? And, you know, remembering like we need to take that time. And, you know, it was one of my coworkers who was finally like, you can do that tomorrow. Like it'll still be there. And she was the one who had to tell me it. So just really relying on each other and using that resource. And I found that community has been so wonderful. So I think that's really important during times like these, that we look at each other and support each other.
Yeah. Thank you. Priscilla, what about you?
I think that right now there's a lot of guilt with a lot of teachers. There's a lot of feelings of, I'm scared for my family, especially with in my case, and the preschool teachers that I know, not only from my school, but from other schools, who are, what if I bring it home to my kids? I have to go back to teach, so my kids are being watched by their grandparents. What if I bring it home from the school and my kids give it to my parents? And there's lots of anxiety, there's lots of worry. And I want people to understand that that is 100% normal, that you don't have to feel guilty about those feelings, because as much as we love our kids, we want them to be safe and happy, and we want to be there to support them, that we also, like Jenny was saying, we need to give ourselves some time. This is a traumatic experience that we're all going through to one extent or another. As teachers, as essential workers, we're all lucky to still have an income, to still have our jobs. And I thank God for that all the time. There's a level of perspective that brings to me, but also, just because we have our jobs doesn't mean we don't also have stresses and problems, doesn't mean that we're not worried for our families and our parents and everything that's going on right now. There's just a level of there's a level of suffering that's communal, that we're all aware of, on a level that we haven't been for a very long time. There's a level of when there's bad things on the news, but you're just going through your everyday life and your routine is normal, you can kind of put that aside and just do your day-to-day. But this is just impacting everyone everywhere. Debbie's in Ecuador, and I'm on the East Coast, and a lot of y'all are on the West Coast or in the South. Other way around. But anyway, and we're all in this together. And we just need to be kind to ourselves and with each other, because we let ourselves get frustrated, we let ourselves get stressed, and that's also detrimental to our kids.
Yeah. Man. Rebecca, how about you?
I would just say, hang in there. Patience. I've seen y'all typing and saying, we're all going through this at once, and this was a big shock, not just for teachers, but for parents, for students, and just, even if you don't think you're doing a good job, you are. Even if you're not reaching everyone, you're trying, you're doing your best, and that's all we can do right now.
Yeah. Kathy, what about you?
Since I teach kids at the other end and they're looking forward to transitioning on, we've had a lot of concerns from students and families about going from grades to pass-fail. What do you mean the 96 I had is going to look the same as the 76 that someone else had in the same class? But we've heard from colleges, college counseling reported, the colleges are doing the same thing. They're expecting transcripts to look funny. Harvard's going to understand if, your transcript looks a little weird for a semester or even a year, because we're already talking about what the fall will look like, and it will not look like the same thing that fall of 2019 looked like in our classes.
Yeah. Woo. Guys, all of the schools are going to look like pass-fail, so trust me. In fact, they're going to look at your transcript and go, COVID, right? They're going to know. It's going to be okay. You're going to be just fine.
I really do think it's important to remember we are all in the same boat. There's not going to be one person who's like, you guys went through COVID-19? What? Oh, I was perfect during this time.
Right. So true. Deb, what about you?
For me, I would say a combination of the two, the more of just making sure that you're being a good role model for your students, in that you're keeping them having the perspective that's going to keep them healthiest right now. They are dealing with something that we have no idea how we would have responded if we were in their shoes. But the more important one is to know your boundaries and maintain them as teachers, because if you are not feeding yourself with healthy practices, we cannot be doing anything effective with our students. And so I think it's super important to, be selfish in that area right now, and to, give yourself grace, and to, lead by example. We can't expect our students to be gracious towards themselves if they can see the same towards ourselves.
Yeah, I love all of those perspectives. I think for me, if I were to talk to other teachers, I would say, you're human. Don't feel bad if you feel like, hey, today's class, we might have to cancel today's class. I'm not mentally doing okay today. Let's reschedule, all of us, for another time. Or, you feel like because you can't reach all of your kids at the same time and see them every day and hear from them every day, that you're not doing everything you're supposed to, but you are. You are doing everything you're supposed to. You're doing the absolute best that you can, and your kiddos will be able to look back and see how you did what you could to help them be their best self even at this time. And they'll appreciate that looking back. For students, from my littles to the older kids, I would say this is different. This is a lot to still take in, even a few months in. And you can kind of see it in different ways depending on your situation. And if you're blessed enough really to be in a safe situation, don't feel so bad if you're not able to do all of your work right now, because we understand that the responsibilities at home probably look a lot different, and what you have available to you may not be conducive to do everything you need to do on time. But keep communicating with those of us that are teaching you, because we want to make sure that, you're not missing something because of something that's hurting you. Or, hey, Deb, sorry, your mic went. It's okay. We want you to be safe in your experience at home. So, if you feel like you need to let us know, hey, I can't get this in today because something happened or whatever, we will understand. It's okay. But know that we miss you guys and we love you guys, and we're hurting to see you guys in person and hug you and make sure you guys are okay just as much as you guys do for us. And so, we are going through this together, and we think about you guys every day, and we'll do our absolute best to make sure that you get your absolute best even during this crazy time. And for parents, God bless you guys. You guys are putting on a lot of hats right now. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It is absolutely expected to be feeling overwhelmed right now if you are. And, it's so easy to say, just make it fun for your kids. It's like, well, it depends on the kids that you have. It depends on if you're working or not. It depends on your financial situation. It depends on whether or not your child has disabilities or not. There's so many factors involved right now, and mental health is a thing. We get it. This is going to be a very abnormal time for you, but know that as teachers, we're cheering you guys on. We're a resource to you. We will help you in any way we can. Please don't feel bad to reach out to us. If we don't get back to you ASAP, please forgive us. We will definitely get back to you guys as soon as we can, but we are also paying attention to you guys and knowing that this is a feat for you. And so we just say kudos to you for jumping into these new roles that you really didn't have before and weren't necessarily trained to do before, but you're willing to do so for the sake of the education that you know your child needs. So we just thank you for that sacrifice. And guys, we're essential workers as teachers. I don't know if anyone's told you that. I don't know if you've felt that way, but we are essential. And whether we're in the classroom or we are virtually a classroom or we're just at home sending packets to our kids, we are essential. We are still essential to their learning. We're essential to their growth and development as amazing people in society. And hopefully our efforts at this time will still allow them to become great young men and women who will conquer the world because of this experience that they've gone through. And so I really just wanted to thank you guys so much for what you're doing. This is a challenging age group to work with, but we're doing it. It might not feel like a success every day, but we're succeeding. And I think this conversation is really going to inspire a lot of teachers and parents, and even some of our students that get to listen across the world, how we're still here, we're hanging in there, and we're cheering everybody on. So thank you guys for taking the time to talk with me and sharing your experiences with all of my listeners today. I'm going to put your contact information for those of you who want to do that in the description of the episode. So that way, any of you guys who are listening and want to reach out to any of these educators about what they're doing, how they're processing things, if you desire resources from them for your classrooms or just general questions about what to do in the education system and kind of have a support system, they'd be willing to talk to a lot of you guys about those things. It's really nice to connect with people at this time, considering we're all social distancing and not even getting to see each other in person. So just having that type of connection and support at this time will be really cool. Thank you guys all for listening to today's episode. If there are any topics in the future that you would want to hear, or any general questions that you guys have personally that you would love answered on this platform, feel free to contact me on Twitter or Facebook at First Paso. And if you've resonated with anything that we've talked about today, whether or not you're a student, a teacher, a parent, and you're going through something that you wanted to share with other listeners, let me know and I'll read some of your comments on a future episode. So I will hope you guys continue taking care of yourselves, continue social distancing, washing your hands, wearing your masks, staying safe, loving up on your kiddos, and doing the best that you can. And for you guys, thanks again for doing this podcast with me. I will hopefully see you guys soon and it not have anything to do with a camera. That would be great.
No problem. Thank you
guys
so much for having us.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.